That'll help. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing out there? Glad to have you come and join us for this conversation on the ZENcast, ZenWorks certificates. Things are tightening down out there with COVID over here, so I hope you guys are safe and your family's safe, and just pray that this gets taken care of, huh? So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're taking the time to go through this. I am no specialist on certificates, but I know it's something that I struggle with, so I think I needed to go through it. So this is an exercise that both you and I can go through today and see the tracking of ZenWorks certificates on the different products, primarily configuration management and service desk. So service desk is not as certificate bound as ZCM is, meaning it just has a few of them compared to configuration management. But we're going to do a little bit of house cleaning first. So as you know, log into the YouTube chat and we can you can join the conversation. You could direct message by putting an @ sign in front of the username that's in the conversation, and you can hit the exclamation point commands, and you'll get the URL or whatever, so you don't have to try to type it all out with all those crazy numbers and letters. YouTube settings, best to have autoplay off in case something happens and you don't go to some other stream, and also the quality. 720p 60 is the best quality that you'll get out of this particular stream. So we're glad you're here. Hey, Don. Hi, Martin. How are you doing? Both of you doing well, I hope. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to also ask you to subscribe. Subscribe to the notifications here. So when we go live, you'll be able to see that either on Twitter or on the YouTube if you're logged into YouTube. So that way you get our notification. ZENcast is the first and third Tuesday of every month, and it's 9 o'clock Mountain Time. And there'll be some adjustments coming up in this next year. Not right away in January, but I'm hoping to give this view a facelift a little bit. So hopefully we can spice it up for you, as well as maybe try and do some time zones as we get into the year. So Martin, as you're in the evening out there, we can hopefully get you during the daytime. Anyway, so again, as I mentioned, first and third Tuesday of each month, and we're here to talk to you about, as ZenWorks administrators, talk to you about the product and answer or get details of any questions you might have. You can always find the recordings out there on YouTube under the YouTube Micro Focus Support and Training. We have our own channel or sub-channel called ZENcast, so you can review this if you're not able to make it live. Micro Focus Bangalore Technical Conference is coming up, so they're soliciting customers' input to developers. Basically, your input is important to us. We want to know what you feel about the product. I think I need to turn this Yeti down a little bit. Let's try this. Looks like it's a little high. So, you can contact Peter Atkins to submit any of those questions or understand what they're looking for. But I remember back in 2009, I had the same thing, and I was able to go face-to-face with developers and talk to them about what works, what doesn't work. We don't even use this part of the product. We wish it did this type thing. So if you want to get involved with that, feel free. I think it's a great activity for you. Patch Tuesday highlights, November is in, so you can double check that under Patch Tuesday. This is basically, if you're using, and even if you don't have ZPM, this is a good place to go to understand what's going on with your patches on Windows. All right, they have Darren every month will put out any critical patches and talk about how things need to be adjusted and what patches are should be applied. And with patch management on top of that, you can also bring it in. But It's good for any administrator to be able to see what's going on with patches for if you're administering some Windows OSs. And I think he also does the Linux and others if they're critical, right? So it's not just for Windows. But go out to that URL. It's out on the community forum under ZENworks tips and information. And again, it's once a month. You'll put that out right around the beginning of the month. And then desktop containers 20 with application streaming add-on. So if you own desktop containers and you always wished you had the streaming component, Micro Focus has now added that in as part of the product itself without any additional charge. And then Open Horizons is a great magazine to see not just ZENworks, but other types of products, ATOM or the other products that Micro Focus has. We submit to our webinars and our white papers and stuff to Open Horizons magazine. So be sure to check that out. You might find some good articles in there. Some product news. Let's go through this a little bit. Of course, we're on ZCM 2020 Update 1. And in TID 7024523, you can get the agent cleanup, the ZDC, the update itself. There's a couple imaging driver updates for 17 and 2020. The PRU for November is obviously released. Service Desk also is at 8.2. Security patch cadence is coming in November. And I checked this morning. I didn't see the patches come out yet, but it should be any day now. I have a defect that they're working on to fix, which will be fixed in the security patches, and it should arrive in November, I saw. So should happen anytime. Check for security updates. That's for me. I just did that. I checked on my ZRS and my ZSD and ZCM appliances. So nothing just yet, but the cadence is November, every 3 months, November, February, so forth. So you should be seeing those. And so this is just a reminder to make sure you add those in to keep your appliances secure. ZENworks reporting server, also 7.2, and it should get some security patches as well. We talked a little bit about MFDC 20 with streaming, and it helps at-home workers. And then, by the way, if you have ZENworks mobile management, we're not talking ZENworks configuration management with the mobile component. We're talking about the legacy component, ZMM. End of life is December 2020. So we won't be doing any adds and fixes to that. So hopefully you've migrated off of your ZMM, or you're in the process of doing so, and moving on to the ZCM product of mobile management, which is in the ZCC. So some Micro Focus resources. I'm putting this up for those that need this or are reviewing this particular video. Newly designed Micro Focus support pages. They're still working on those. I found a couple glitches. They're saying we're working on it. Micro Focus Ideas Exchange Portal. Please put those ideas in. It really helps our product help you in your environment. So we're excited that every time we get new ideas in there, and they are looked at. Sometimes the coding is much deeper to do something, and so it has to be delayed, and then of course we look at the vote and those types of things, but they are reviewed. And thank you for putting those out there. It's real important that you do that. Micro Focus Products Lifecycle, which is where you'll see the ZMM, and then Micro Focus product resources are out there. So the Micro Focus site, one thing to remember is if you just go to microfocus.com and select that magnifying glass in the upper right, it will then allow you to search, and if you're looking for a particular item, you can search from there. So that's kind of handy. You don't have to go too deep in order to get to finding what you need, as long as you have enough details for what you need. And then don't forget about Patch Finder. You go out to your product, you log into your portal and you go to your product version, and it'll tell you the different things you need, like the imaging driver and the agent cleanup utility, and you can download them from there. So just a little reminder on some of the stuff that we have out there for resources. I always forgot about the Patch Finder. I'm digging through trying to find the latest updates, and then somebody tells me, go to Patch Finder. Yeah, that's when I was a customer. So I just wanted to remind you that that's out there. It's pretty pretty flexible. Online community. So, get connected to the online community. You share with your peers. You can post things that you're not sure of a solution. You want to give input on how your environment takes care of different solutions. New enhancements and releases are out there, and then downloads, demos, and videos. So get involved with the community, and we're excited that you do chime in. You can put comments, you can put views, you can put thumbs up, thumbs down, and even if you find it as a solution, you can say post this as a solution. So educational resources, there's a lot of them. They're combining the first three here to the pass to certification. We are using Acclaim badges now, which is a certified standard, industry standard. So if you take the patch management course, you can get certified in that and actually broadcast that out to those you're applying for. Hey, James, how you doing? Thank you for using that, exclamation point ideas. That's the URL right there. And also Education Central, again, product forums, which is community forums, support and training, YouTube channel, has a lot of our videos, not just ZENworks. If you have iPrint, if you have ATOM, if you have Silk, there's people throughout our product line are putting videos out there. And then ZENworks webinar recordings. This is takes you right to the index of all of them. We had somebody call in and say, hey, it says register and it's already past the date. What do we do? Just hit register, put in your name and email address, and it'll open it right up because it's already passed. We just haven't changed that particular link yet to say watch instead of register. So feel free to do that. It's a good resource to see what's happened in the past. Good news. ZNews is back. I mentioned this the last couple of ZENcasts. I'm excited for this. I actually want to go to this while we're here. Let's see if we can get this to come up. Yes. Oh, certificates. And we're talking about certificates. Uh-oh. This came up over here. Let me go over here. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it to open up Chrome for this. Let's go to my ZCM. Super secret password. And go to home. At the bottom of home are the alerts. So ZNews is back. It talks about mobile management, end of life, and it talks about ZENworks 2020 update 2 alpha 1 build is available. So if you want to participate in any of those, you can easily do so through these links. So that's just another way of us trying to get you involved, and you can get involved with participating in some of those efforts. Okay? ZENworks committed support for ZCM 2017 is extended to April 30th, 2021. So just wanted to mention that. Also, check out the IMG monthly newsletter. It is really a good newsletter for what ZENworks is part of the IMG community, and we put in articles, webinars. The ZENcast will be in there, just so that you have a quick link to those particular things. Let's see if I can do this right. Where's it going to open? That's the mystery. Where is it going to open? Yeah, it's going to open it over here again. Okay. We'll do this. I don't know why it always goes to my screen one. So this is the monthly newsletter. It talks a little bit about it. It also gives you things about the particular, quick links directly to. So 5 reasons why customers love ZENworks, and search changes the way we think. So some good articles in-house that we're distributing it out, as well as being digital safe and so forth. This changes monthly. So it's a good link to have. We talked about mobile management, end of life. Again, that is ZENworks mobile management, not ZENworks configuration management mobile. Okay. Just want to make sure that people don't think that we're no longer doing the mobile, which we are heavy into it. ZENworks 2020 Update 2 Alpha 1 is now available, which you saw in the Z News, as well as the ZENworks System Update Catalog. So, what was this article now? Let's take a peek. I think sometimes I go through these too quick, and then you guys don't really know what it's referring to. Oh, yes. This was really good. I'm glad I clicked on that. The ZENworks System Update Catalog, it gives us a good workflow. And since we're doing certificates today, this also applies here because a certificate remint is basically a system update, right? So it gives a good rundown. They did a real good job on this article. The workflow processes, what to look for. It goes through a preparation. You've seen it saying preparing and so forth. You can look in the log. So a lot of this we'll cover also today, but do be aware that that is out there. This is a really good article, and I'm going to put it in chat as well. I don't know. Yeah, right here. So this is that article. It's a really good article. So I thought I'd just point it out so you guys have something to check out if you're looking at system updates. And most importantly, how are we doing? Are we meeting your expectations for ZENcast? Do we have the right content? Do we have the right time frame, time slots, meeting expectations? What improvements can we do? And downloadable presentations. Oh, I also wanted to say, every ZENcast, I have this set of slides. Is that something that you'd want to see in the description so that you can download the set of slides? Question to you guys out there. So, and one thing, if you can, it would be great if you can. Whoops, went back. If you can. It's not going to let me click on it. Yeah, well. If you go to the forms, and it's just a quick survey, it won't take too much of your time. And just asking you some things about content. Is it the right spot? Are we hitting the target? And this will really help us refine it, because in January I think I'm going to give this a facelift. And I'm excited about that, and I want to be able to improve it and not impact what we already have going. Okay? That's kind of our housekeeping. If there's any questions, please let me know. Put it in chat. Happy to be able to answer them. I think I have this as well. I see that James did the ideas, so I should be able to do survey. And that form will come up there as well. Okay, so the last ZENcast, we did some full disk encryption and had a demo, and we had some blank screens. We had some issues with showing some portions of it. These were two of them that they wanted us to, they were emphasizing, is that the new, on the left is the older, and now on the right is the newer, where we have the Windows Boot Manager to go right into Windows Boot Manager, which is what we're tailoring full disk encryption to for the Windows. And so there's a boot screen on ZCM 2020 Update 0 is on the left, and then Update 1 is on the right, so that they have that added in as the first item. Okay. There were also some questions and answers. If you had any, there's some full disk encryption documentation listed here. What's new? There's the What's New protecting your data in ZENworks. 2 different webinars there, and then the ZENcast for last time is there as well. So that will should give you some answers there if we didn't answer them in the webinar. It was about some of the upcoming features that we had, and then also some features that were trudging forward or came in new at Update 1. Oh, I guess I duplicated the slide. The other one was there's Micro Focus Voltage, which is a smart cipher, and we didn't get into that at all. But it's another encryption type product that we sell, but it's not ZENworks. So you can research that on your own. And if you're just joining in, log into chat like we've seen these others do. Martin, Don, James, we appreciate you being here. Subscribe to the Micro Focus channel and be sure to double check on that ZENcast progress survey. Make sure we're on target. So when January comes around, we have we're moving forward in the right direction. Any questions on past? Shall we go into the future? Topics update. Today, November 17th, ZenWorks certificates. And primarily focused, this is not a certificate class, okay? But this will cover what ZCM and ZSD, how they use particular certificates. And being able to track them. I know that's the biggest thing. One of the worst days as administrator for me is when back in ZCM 11, and they didn't have nags back then, or I ignored it if they did, my certificate expired, right? And that was a bad week. So it only happened once. But there's a bunch of certificates now. I mean, we've evolved so much from 10, 11 into 2017 and now into 2020. There's even a mobile 2-year certificate and things like that. So we're going to be doing ZenWorks certificates. Next month, a 2-part series on zone management. You almost can't cover it in 2 parts even, but we're going to do zone management. We hope you participate so you can throw things out there. It's going to be an open forum like it typically always is. I only put these topics out here because this is what came in on the surveys, but if you have something off topic, happy to go sideways with you. Okay. Upcoming in 2021 is virtual application streamings and admin studio. I'm hoping to get Jason Blackett in here to demo that again. He did do a webinar on it. And then database maintenance tips and tools. And some of that will be covered in zone management, right? We'll have some tips and tools in there. And then ZCM 2020 Update 2 is coming up soon. It'll be closer to, the beta will probably be in the first quarter, second quarter next year, first half of next year. But I'm excited to see what they got going on with it. And ZSD migrations for Service Desk. How to do those migrations. All right. So let's have a little bit of a ZenCast lab talk. So what's our first? Yeah, so it's certificates and what certificates exist in the systems, right? You have a CA certificate versus server certificates. Remint process. We're going to cover some of these processes and how to track the remint as you're doing that. What's going on? How do you see what's going on? So that's what's on today's agenda. And for the ZCM certificates, there's a lot of them. All right. There's obviously the certificate authority. And you have a primary server certificate. You have satellite server certificates. If you're registered or using Service Desk with ZenWorks integrations, you have Service Desk registration. Subscribe and share connections. There's mobile certificates, registration keys, and access tokens, and so forth. So ZCM has quite a bit of certificates because it's talking to so many different systems. Okay? And even to the managed device, right? So we're going to cover some of those. A lot of it's going to be on system updates when you're reminting, because that's one of the common calls we get that come into support. And I wanted to cover some of the aspects of how to track that. So again, I'm not an expert on it. I have background on it and I can follow through it. So this really isn't a certificate class, and what is the PEM and the CRT and all of those file types and stuff like that. But we'll go through the processes of reminting. I started mine last week, okay, in my zone. And then ZSD certificates, they have a few. You know, you have the certificate authority, your server certificate, if you're registered to ZCM, and then you have remote control and bundle management, right? Because it passes those over to the ZCM system when you remote control or do bundle management within Service Desk. Okay, so there's just certificates everywhere. And there's different certificate types and tools. So types are the CA. Do you have an internal or external? Do you let the system, the zone, create its own internal CA certificate? But when I was an administrator at a government institution, we needed to make sure that we had the external certificate signed. So we had external certificates. You know, there's public and private keys. There's certificate signing requests, and then the signed certificate, and then file types of different types with extensions. What do all those kind of mean? Certificate tools, you have your Microsoft Certificate Manager. You have internal tools like the console and ZCC because it'll create the internal certificate or create a CSR. Service Desk even creates that CSR, right? So if you have to get it signed from an external entity. OpenSSL, what is your signing entity? Is it Veritas? Is it, which one is it? So those are some of the things that come into play when we're talking certificates. So certificate discussion, CA certificate. So your certificate authority is one to many. So you have an authority. There is a role on one of your primary servers to be a certificate authority holder of that certificate. And everybody in your environment talks with that certificate to make sure it's valid. So the zone communication to all devices in the zone, your primary servers, managed devices, satellite servers. And then you have the server certificates, which is also a key aspect for the primary servers and the satellite servers, where it talks directly to the zone. So you have zone communication to satellite server, a primary server also, and then you can see that through the ZENworks configuration management console, ZCC, or the ZenWorks Service Desk console. So we'll cover some of those in some screenshots. I hope I did myself justice going into this topic because it is one that, it's one of those that it seems simple when I go through it and I've troubleshot it. And then because I do it so infrequently, even as an administrator, you do it so infrequently. It fogs up, and trying to remember it sometimes gets difficult or a challenge for me. But we're improving the documentation all the time. We're also improving the console for the nags and the, oh, by the way, be patient, it's still processing type stuff in the console. So be aware that your service calls are being addressed through different avenues so that we can improve the product and not have you jump the gun. Sometimes we had customers that would create a server certificate and we didn't have a posting in there of a nag, and so did it take? They wait a little bit, a couple minutes, and then they start another one, and then things start going awry because it's still working on the first one, and yeah, it can get confusing. So we're trying to improve that process for you. Just want to make sure you're aware of that. The Service Desk Appliance digital certificates. Again, there's a key pair. You can do import. There's trusted certificates. There's key pairs. There's exports. So once you go into that tile, you can see that there's different things you could do. You can even view the info on the certificate, see when it expires, and so forth. So this is an appliance. Service Desk is now appliance only. So you'll see this in the appliance as well as in an appliance on ZCM. I'm sorry. You'll see it in ZCC with ZCM. And you're able to do a few of those things. Edit, delete, view info, set active. And I put this here because I think I wanted to go to this particular view. Trying to be a little bit more interactive as we go so we don't lose things along the way and I forget to show you. So let's go on over to my ZSD. And here we are with digital certificates. And then going to the web application certificate, this one's signed. You want to make sure that you can update the chain, you can view the information, reload. If you have a chain in here, you'll be able to see that. So one thing to note in the appliance, if you log out and you log in as SD-admin, you can see it's not there. So as a service desk administrator, this stuff is for administering the service desk. And then with root, you have all the extra stuff. That can manage storage, time, network, firewall. Okay. So that's one thing, I wanted to show you. Let's minimize that. So you have the ability of bringing in certificates there as well as creating the CSR if you have an external and those types of things. So on ZCM, you have server certificate status, and I have one primary server in this zone, okay? And it has an internal CA, right? It expires well out there. It is currently active. One of the things I wanted to do is at least show you in the logging and is in the database how to look this stuff up if you're uncertain of what's going on. Now, a lot of our customers had the appliances or had the Sybase database on 2017, and since we went to 2020, we had to migrate that to another database. And Postgres is one of those that you can migrate to for the appliance, and it'll stay local. Well, a lot of my, and we'll go through this, a lot of my commands are the Postgres and how you can adjust the Postgres database syntax so that you can see what you need to see. And you'll catch on here in a minute. Any questions so far on service desk certificates? I guess I should ask that. So ZCM server certificate statuses. So this one shows active. And these are the different things that it can be. It can be active, expired, generated in CSR, CSR generation failed, new certificate created, and creating a certificate failed, and then new certificate uploaded. And of course, the external would be the certificate uploaded, right? A CA, an external CA. And that's reminting the server certificate. And then you have the update certificate status. You can see here we have certificate remit in place. It's in process right now. And for the certificate remit, you have update is assigned, reminting the certificate, waiting for certificate verification failed, pending certificate activation failed, and then update completed, as well as update completed with errors. So you'll find different statuses. Notice you don't see in process there, but these are what the database uses and sees, and we'll dig into that in just a minute. And then for the CA certificate, obviously they did a great job in 2017 moving this over to ZCC. I remember maybe it was 11.4.3 or 11.4.2. But before that, you had to do everything manually and do zman commands and put it on the satellite server. I don't know how many of you remember that. But it was a challenge every 2 years to remember and go through this process. So I had to document it. And now with the ZCC, this makes these changes and moves a little bit easier. So right here, we're in the certificates tab of the configuration. and we're looking at the zone certificate authority, and you can obviously change the CA. You can move the CA role, right? If you had multiple primary servers, and let's say you're migrating off of one server, you're decommissioning a server, and you need to move that role, you can move it right here in ZCC. And this is documented in a query command as well if you needed to do it via the database. But you can move it right here. It's grayed out because I only have one primary server. You could view the certificate. You could back up, restore, and remint the CA. Now, reminting, obviously you have to check, yes, I want to remint the certificate. The key length is 2048 or higher, valid for 10 years, right? And this is for ZCM. Next, you have a 2-year certificate for the MDM. If this particular server had the role for mobile management, you'd also want to make sure that this is valid for 2 years, okay? And that's an Apple restriction, or I should say a mobile restriction for those vendors out there that are that we manage. 2 years, so we put in a 2-year for this primary server. And since it's the only primary server, it obviously is going to be a 2-year server's certificate. And then a 10-year. And then include any additional DNS names. One thing to remember is UTC. So you may select November 17th at 8 a.m. I want this to, maybe that's Saturday morning, 8 a.m. But if you put that in here and you're not at 0 GMT, it's going to be whatever your time zone different is, right? So remember that that's UTC. The certificate activation date is UTC. And it'll give you the current time down below, but just remember that. I had to reiterate that in my own brain when I was an administrator as well. So you can back up the CA, restore the CA, and view the certificate all through that particular console screen. And this is viewing the certificate. You can see the date. Okay, and one other thing I wanted to make sure you're aware of is off to the right there's a couple of icons, and this one is for columns. So you can actually add other things across this column here if you wanted to. If you didn't want to see the version, or if you didn't want to, you know that it's an internal CA, you didn't want to see that, you can uncheck that, issued by, and then add in other things if you wished to. So be aware that that's there, as well as a refresh. So if you're going through a remint, it goes through a process and then refresh. Hello, Jose. Glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, hola. Aloha. I wore my Hawaiian shirt today. So be aware that those things are there. They're off to the side. It's not easily noticed, but I wanted to make sure you're aware of those particular keys. Again, it shows the current time depending on what you set for UTC, and it's there. CA certificate remint. I think I went through this. This is where we selected an activation date here. Notice that it's it's current time. I didn't hit finish on this, so this gives you the current time, UTC. And then it tells you make sure you put it in UTC. So this was probably about 9 o'clock. 10 o'clock in the 10 o'clock in the evening when I was doing this. Okay, so make sure you make your selections. Just want to stress that. And then when you go ahead and do finish, it tells you, are you sure? Certificate activation date is less than 15 days or whatever. Certificate is not updated. So once you hit continue at this point, it's going to hold on to those certificates and it's going to start dispersing them out to your devices, right? which means on your managed device, you'll actually have two certificates, the current one, and when when the second one goes active, it'll pick up on the active one. Okay. Again, when you, oh, these are backwards. It talks about, on this particular slide, it talks about it's doing processes. Sorry. It's doing processes here in the blue, and then it comes up with this. You probably have seen this. This doesn't take terribly long, but then this comes up. And then I go over some of these things. Make sure your content replication is across the board, especially with the CA. Your CA is going to obviously need to go to all the devices, right, so that it can communicate. And as long as you communicate, as long as you're, where was I going with that? Oh, we'll catch up with it. Senior moment right there. So make sure your content replication status, you can cancel the CA remint up to, I think it's 10 minutes prior to actually activation time. So let's say your certificate expires November 30th at midnight, and you're activating the new one November 20th, right at midnight. Well, November 20th, you can actually cancel up to 10 minutes prior, but make sure you're aware of what that other date is, because you don't want that one to expire. You want to make sure your CA is always active. And only remint when you need to. If it's only been a couple months and you think you need to remint, well, why would you need to if it's a 2-year cycle or whatever cycle you put into it? So again, these are some of the screenshots for canceling. It says, do you want to cancel? Do you want to make sure you cancel? We're going to go to the lab and look at some of these things as well. I have one that's in process right now. And then some of the loader logs. So loader-messages.log and service-messages.log. So you can see that you want the GUID of that update because it is a system update. And then you could search on that GUID. And then you can also search on Remint if you're reminting. And you'll find things in your logs about what's going on. Okay. Here's another one. I was removing, at this point I was canceling the CA. So you could see the remint, deleted remint is initiated, deleted server remint validity entry. So it has to go through a process, right? And so it's changing the status from future to cancel. And it's going through a process here in the loader-messages.log. Okay. Notice I searched on Remint here. And then this one I did system update if I remember correctly. But you can see there's content repo because it creates that, puts it in the content repo for work to do, and distributes it out. So, but it has to remove the system updates. It has to remove from certificates. It has to remove content and remove from cache, because it may have trickled out to people already. Some key identifiers. I think I put a box in here. Yeah. One, be patient. Okay. We're getting the nags better. We're getting the responses better as it's doing work. But as I mentioned earlier, I had somebody start one server certificate, and then he thought it, because we didn't have a prompt up there that it was doing something, he started another one and canceled it, and the system got a little mixed up because it was trying to do multiples. Replication 100%. Know the update GUID. Remember it's UTC time, and you cannot cancel 15 minutes prior to once you're in that 15-minute window, you can't cancel it. All right. So now we're going to the database tracking. Let's do a little bit of lab stuff while we're here. Let me see where my lab is. Not there. Yeah, it's here. Okay. This is my zone. And we're going to go, let's see if I have to relog in. I probably will. It's going to probably kick me out. Come on now. While that's coming up, remember in the documentation that there's a troubleshooting guide for different things that may happen. So do reference this area if you're concerned. It's pretty well laid out as far as different issues that are going on. If you have a remit tool fails on the CA server or something. That's all in the SSL management reference under the product documentation. It's right here under system administration. Okay. So the troubleshooting section's there, as well as how you're going to configure the certificate authority and so forth, if you're moving it and that type of stuff. Why did you go blank? Let's try this again. I'm pretty sure 27's up. Yeah, 27's up. Okay, good. We can go to 77 if we have to. Let's go over to, this is service desk. And of course you have, let's go here. Under setup. You have, of course, licenses, database, and everything else. What you want to do is go to the 9443 where those certificates were. Oh, we actually showed this earlier. Digital certificates. So we did do this. And then you're going to basically be working in the web application certificates. Hello, Etienne. Glad you're with us. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I'm wondering why this particular one has been with me forever. And I'm wondering why it's having a hard time. Well, we could go here, actually. We can go to ZENworks Control Center here. It's a little bit smaller for you, so I don't like it quite as much. We'll go to 77. My backup. Glad you made it. Thanks for coming on out and joining us today. We're covering certificates today, so we hope you can reap some of this. Wow. The demo gods are not with us today. Let me go over here and try a different browser. See, this one, it was up. Let's see if it stays up. Okay. Yeah, we were just in this because we just logged in and we got to these ZENworks news alerts. It's having a hard time. Okay. Not what I wanted today. Memory. We're up there. I'll go ahead and shut this guy down. Give me a second. Sorry about this. This one I was working on for a customer. That'll free up a little bit of memory, but I don't know why it's giving me a hard time. And this is on the same VM, ESXi. It's working well. Let's go home. see if this came back. Oh, this isn't good. All right, let's go back to, let's look at this a second. What is going on with my systems? All right, let me shut some of these down. I won't need this guy. Maybe I overburdened it. All right, so we have 2 ZCMs up. I do have screenshots. Waiting for it to come back. Yeah, I think I'm running low on memory on it. See if this will help a little bit. I was up late last night working on a customer, and so I had opened a couple of things. Certainly should help. Let's go to here. Log back in. Go host. Yeah, it's freeing some up, which is good. This one will be shut down in just a second. Yeah, it's going down. All right. Let's go back over and see if we got a console over here yet. Not yet. Well, in this one, I've seen this take a little while for on the device itself. So we'll wait a minute. Let's go back over to our presentation. We're going to look a little bit about database and tracking. For the certificates, these are 3 tables that you'd probably want to check out. The zcertificate table, the zsystemupdateex, and the zsystemupdatedeviceinfo. Now, let's see if my PG admin's still up. Where did that go? Let me open up PG admin. Fresh. There we go. All right. Servers 27. See 27 shows it's live. That's good. So as we look in here, we're going to reference my these guys. And I can't cut and paste from here. I had them. All right, let me go over here. I got it here. We're down to here. Let's do this. So if I do okay. Oh, they are here. Here it is here. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so one thing that we noticed, and we haven't gotten into 27 yet to see, but this is the GUID of the system update. Okay. This is the GUID of the primary server. So if you have multiples, you can put them in here just for reference, because as you do this, as you do select from zcertificates, especially in Postgres, it doesn't resolve some of the data the byte A. You can see how it says byte A and it says binary data. So one of the tips in the presentation, I have a TID, and we'll see that in a minute. We're going to run, you want to do an encode so that it can translate that to hex. All right, because it doesn't know otherwise. So pgadmin requires you to do this. However, there is a setting in DBeaver that will automatically do that for you on as a preference setting. Okay, so if we go ahead and run this instead, you can see it resolves, or at least translates that to hex. And so I translated the ZUID, the subject UID, and the user UID, all of these. And then if you want to label them, notice it says encode here. Well, if you want to label them as ZUID and their respective columns, you can do that. So that's this one here. So now you get a little more idea of what they are. And you can see here, this one is our primary server, 9FB. It's now active. Oh, see, it was future a few minutes ago. I set it up so while we were doing this, we could see it go to active. And I may have mistimed that just slightly. Let's try and go out there again. Hello. Oh, that helps if I have numlock on. Let's see if that goes out there. We may need to double check the server. I'll just open it up here. Let me go ahead and restart 27. And yeah, let's go ahead and go in here. Yes, I'm aware of that. And you're not going to let me, are you? Guess I timed that too close. Had a couple things for key tool. You can view your certificates with key tool here. We'll get to that in a minute. I was hoping it was all set up, but let me go ahead and restart. Of course, I'll lose my connection, my database. All right, let's go back to the slide deck while that's restarting. Let me make sure it is restarting though. Close this. Wow. Having a hard time. If I could get to 77. I think it's more my VM than anything else. I can't even get to my 77. Not responding right. There we go. Yes, unplanned. We'll say it's unplanned. I want to see you drop. Okay, it's restarting. 77 isn't doing any better. Oh. Yeah. More interfaces to go through to restart it. Okay. Hurry up and wait. I was running the key tool here as well to list the certs, which there aren't any. So, come on now. It's struggling. Okay. We will come back to that. Let's go to our screenshots. Glad I got my screenshots now. Okay, so you're encoding to get the syntax correct. You saw that a little bit on there. There's a couple of database tables to look at. The TID for PostgreSQL and DBeaver, some internal tips and utilities, is there. So if we did an exclamation point 7024.768, should be able to go to that link and see that TID. I try and put things in there so that it makes it easier, because Sybase had those tools built in and everything. So using pgadmin or going to another database can sometimes be a challenge. Okay. So the zcertificate table, since we're not seeing it actively, we can look here. If we were to do this particular, we're going to the zcertificate table. We're going to look at some of these columns. Basically, these columns here: pending certificate, new certificate created. You'll see that this is our primary server down here, and it's for future. Notice when we did it on the live system just a minute ago, this was active. So that means it had completed its time and started sharing that new certificate, and that was your primary. Okay. So by doing that command, as we put it in here, we could see that it came up and was future. So you can kind of see what state it's in. Then if you go over to the update, you could see the processes that it's going through. And again, I put that TID out there for your reference. And you can see here it's being prepared. And do I have? No, yeah. So it's prepared. It goes through a preparing process. And then what were some of those? Back here we had some mentions of the, oh, it's too far back, I'm sorry. The statuses. I lost it. Sorry, guys. All right, let's move forward. Let me go over to here. Here. We're going to go. Oh, there they were. There's the statuses there. Let's get to the database. Okay, so feel free to check out that TID. We can add more to it if you're uncertain. But right now, in this state, at this screenshot, we were pending certificate activation. It wasn't time yet, so it was in the future. F is for future. Then at the same time, we show that it's prepared. In this table, it shows that it's prepared. It's successfully prepared. So it's just standing by until the activation date. All right, and then you can see here it shows pending activation right here. So, and this is the part where they go, well, I put an activation date in, and should it be already going out? This is where you can, there are some questions as far as what stage it's in. And, until it gets to active, sometimes we're just not as comfortable as we'd like to be because of, we're uncertain of the stage. Of course, we like to see things happening. As administrators, I completely understand. So, as we go through this server SSL certificate, this was just a few that I pointed out, yes, and then you want to make sure you have a common name spelled out. But you'll get this first. Server remint is started. Certificate status is active. The remint successfully created. And the remint update creation with status true. Scheduling. So now it has to make sure to schedule upon whatever time frame you gave it. And then it comes up with the yellow. Now this doesn't have to go out to all devices. This is between the zone and the primary server or the satellite server, either of those. It's one-on-one. Whereas a CA remint is one-to-many, the CA to all devices. And so you'll see this posed in here with the server as well as server certificate remint, and it's in process. And now as far as what you can do, then it comes up, do you want to cancel remit? Is that something you want to do? Of course, you want to make sure replication status is 100% on all primary servers, checking your content status. These are out of order. But you can see that this is a selected server, individual server, and it's going to be 100%. And you want to manually sign the update? Yes. Okay, and so it's prepared and it's going to wait for that time to be active. So this shows prepared. If you look at the system-updateex, you can see that it's prepared down here. It's pending certificate activation. It's just sitting there idle until it's ready to go. And then here we show stage is active. So it's moving through the process. It's now active and available on that server. Logging in database, again, loader messages logs and service messages logs. You'll be able to find them in there. Look at remint, look at certificate. Of course, it's a system update. Look for the GUID. And you can also look in the database. All right. This particular one, pending certificate activation, is in the log. So this one's just sitting here. I threw this in here. And the ZCC also shows that there's things you could search on in there. CA certificate. So the logs are good. The database is good if you use those three tables. You can really see what's going on. Here's another example of pending certificate activation. In ZCC, it was sitting at this point and waiting. And in the logs, it was pending certificate activation. And then in the database, you could see the same thing here. Troubleshooting and tools, Z-Man CAS. Now, I don't know if we have our devices back yet, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. But Z-Man Certificate Authority Server, who has that certificate authority? There's one primary server in the zone will have that certificate authority role, and if you need to move it, If you need to decommission that particular primary server, make sure you move that. ZACCI will give you the certificate information on the devices to be able to list all your certificates as well as chains. The browser connected to view the certificate. Obviously, you can go up to the browser, click on the lock, go to view more info, and see what the certificate is there, as well as the logs we mentioned. And then there's a couple of TIDs in my resources coming up. We're doing improvements on wildcard certificates and certificate chains and the nags for clarification, as I mentioned. Please be patient. This will take a couple of minutes so you don't jump into it too fast. And I've done that too many times to where I just set it aside for a while and I'll come back to it in a minute or two. I give myself some time. And then key tool. There's a couple of key tools you can run key tool to see the certificates, what's in them. And here are the logs. Novell-zenworks-configure.log, the system-update.log, the zeus-messages.log. These will all have things pertaining to certificate remints, server remints, and those alike. Then we have a couple of the references, as I mentioned, the TIDs. External certificate with chains not recognized, so there's some details there if you're using chains with external certificate. Service desk, the older way we had to do it is manually change some things in the files so that it would be secure, and that's that particular one. We're up at 7.5. None of that pertains beyond 7.3, I think. So you should be good if you're at the latest version. You don't have to worry about that particular TID. ZCM 2020 Update 1 SSL Management Reference Guide. So that's the documentation I showed you earlier. It does have SSL management as well as the troubleshooting section. And then there's something that came in the community. Again, the community is a great resource. Let me bring this open and bring this over here. Craig was working on this. Craig Wilson, most of you know Craig Wilson. That Windows may lose a ZCMCA trust after Windows. Few details have to be specific, right? A few variables have to be in place, and part of that is you're doing a 1909 or 2004 upgrade, and rolling up patches. So this is a great article if you're moving that way and you're doing your testing and you see something happening. Go out to the community forums, ask questions. They'll redirect you to where you need to go, or at least we'll bring it under advisement so we can investigate it further. But be aware that this is going on, and it could be a possible Microsoft bug. I wonder if I can open this. What is he pointing to here? Okay, so he gets right into the registry about the certificates. Okay, so we did have a notice of that this occurred, and so we put it out on the community forum so you guys can reference it and get some more details. All right. Again, at this point, this post is based on significant supposition, but the potential impact of the reported certificate issues around upgrading Windows 10 PCs with October rollup were significant enough that Craig wanted to alert you guys. Okay. A wealth of information out under the communities. So keep that in mind to check that occasionally. Let me go ahead and see what next slide. Oh, this was another one. How old was this one? Again, community member put adding the ZCM cert to computer. Well, I thought it was interesting that he was talking about reminting. Be careful. It's going to be in the future. Make sure it's well into the future. So all your managed devices get a copy of that particular certificate so that you can, so it has it when the other expires. I'm going to go back over to my Let's log in again. Also, one thing that I try to mention to customers, see it's still here. It's having a hard time. Oh, hard time. Come on now. Okay. Another thing to remember in ZCC, that when you create a CA remint, it will give you a standalone installer in the ZCC downloads. And that's really one of the things I want to make sure I show you here. So that if you have people working from home, away, and they don't happen to be getting attached very often, so that they don't get that particular certificate, next time they attach, if it's expired, they're not going to be able to attach, right? So there is a standalone that you can actually email out or send out so that they can easily click on it, install it, and it'll install that certificate even though they're not attached to the system. So hopefully this restart will be successful, and I can show you some of those locations. Struggling. I've been working with it all. Maybe I needed to reboot it prior to today's, because I've been working with it all. This isn't going to go. A week. Note to self. Restart a day prior. Okay, any questions out there as we're going through this? Certificate is a big subject for me anyhow, and we've done it. I feel we've done a really good job. Micro Focus has done a really good job of getting it into the console and covering some of these issues and making it more seamless instead of the manual way of placing them out there and starting and stopping services and those types of things. So I really feel that they've done a good job, and I just champion this particular process. And as you guys bring in those ideas, as well as different defects come in for wishing they had a please wait type of prompt, and those come in helpful and help everybody across the board. Okay, we're starting back up. Let's see if we can get a live system going here. Really struggling why all of a sudden the demo gods kicked in. This will just take a minute. Again, no questions. Again, ideas forums. Please, does anybody, okay, while we're having a little bit of dead air here, what are some of the things in ZENworks, some ideas for ZENcast that would be good coming up? So if you have some ideas, of course, you can do that survey, but do you have any ideas that you're just struggling with right now, or you'd like to see a ZENcast on this particular policy, or an MSI bundle, or doing default locations, or those types of things? If you have any of that, let's put those in the chat. I'll be happy to take note of those. If they do fit into the next 2 weeks, like maintaining or management of the zone, I'd be happy to throw those in as well. Some of the things that we're going to be covering in the zone would be, making sure you have documentation, screenshots of connected systems, like your database, if you have an external database, or you're connected to service desk. What does that configuration look like? That way, it's down and written, and it's something that if somehow you need a disaster recovery, you can go to that to see what the configuration setup is. We're gonna do like air gap and patch management. It's very interesting that you mentioned that, because that was one of the things I just recently put down, because we have a customer that's going through an air gap upgrade using patch management. So that's a great one. I appreciate you shouting that out, because that's kind of tricky too. I mean, you have an isolated system, you have an air gap system that you need to keep all your systems patched with. How do you go about doing that? So I appreciate that. Looks like it's coming up. We'll give it another minute or two. And that would definitely be a separate ZENcast. It'll be like a patch management and an air gap type of combination. Probably covering patch management and dovetailing air gap in that, so that we can get those details out. More and more we're having air gapped systems, isolated systems for security purposes. So that's a very good one to try and cover. We covered a little bit on a DMZ a little bit ago. And that's required for mobile, right? And now that we have work at home folks, it's good to have that in the DMZ so devices can talk. If there's anything else, go ahead and drop it in there. We'll wait for this to come up a little bit more. I don't have any more slides. I think the slides, I needed to run through them one more time to get the system, the transitions a little bit better. I apologize for that. But if we did it on the server itself, I think it'll be a little bit clearer on what we're looking at. Okay, Jose. Yeah, patch management, ZENcast. All right. That is on my list. Something I have to brush up on as well. So these always go well for me, because if I don't know it that well, I have to dig deeper so that I can get you guys some good information and content. So I appreciate that. We'll try and get that in January. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of a facelift in January, a little bit of different look and feel. I've had some comments on the survey that they want more commentary, they want more administrators coming in, they want more guests. But so far it's been relatively the right content, and it's going as you would like. So I'm encouraged by that. And I just want to help and make it better. So it's a good discussion. Yes, so universal imaging is very interesting. ENGL, we had that where I worked previously. Really good product. And then WinPE scripted process. Getting that down to, we had a little bit of image PBA boot last time, but then we ran into some demo god issues. So yeah, getting that down, the WinPE, that's a good one as well. And ENGL knows their stuff. Been with the ZENworks partnership for a long time, and has a really good product. So with that, things like, so are there concerns about locations? Are there concerns about default networks and the different roles that the primary servers have, or migrating or decommissioning servers. Is that something that is of interest as we move from a physical to maybe an appliance, or a physical to a VM? Might need to have something like that. We have some training videos on that, so that helps. But those types of things that, the fire and forget things that when you actually go back to them later as your zone has evolved, you can probably get more leverage out of them if they were tweaked a little bit. Or memory, right? The memory and heaps that go through the diagnostic portal. Let's see if we have anything yet. 27. Let's refresh. Oh, that's a good sign. All right. So again, if we look at system update, did we go through? We did do this one, I believe. I think we went through all of these because the database wasn't down. Has to reconnect. I'll put these generic commands in the description of the recording afterwards. You can visit them. The other thing I wanted to ask the audience is, as I do these ZENcasts, I make a slide deck. Are those something that would be advantageous for you to have, just to refer back to? So, just wanted to make sure that those are some things that we can fulfill if you're looking for those. So that looks good. Let's go back over here. Let's close this. Let's see if we can get into... Oh, might help if I put a password. Looks funny. Probably need to refresh. See if we can view this directly. That's still refreshing. Let me click on this in case this one doesn't come up. Let's see. So Jose says he has a customer that's interested in understanding if they should continue with their Windows ZCM primaries and external PostgreSDB or consolidate over the appliance. Pros and cons for future. All right. No, that's a good discussion. Pros, cons, physical, and external DB to appliance. And again, that always determines where's your expertise. Yes, thank you, Jose. That's always your expertise too, right? Where does it reside? Do you have a MSSQL DBA, or is it us administrators trying to work through these commands and being able to do queries and stuff? So it can get difficult. So, if you have the expertise, where I worked, we were an Oracle only shop, so that's where we had to go, right? But as you start consolidating, is your zone too big to consolidate, or is it, how are you cutting back? We need to obviously cut back so we leverage the product in a way that it's advantageous, right? So that's great. No, I appreciate that feedback, Jose. We're waiting. I've seen this one take a while. I just hope it comes up because this one's not. Really don't know why. Database is up. We're getting a response from it. So that's good. I think this will come up. I think it'll come up. I'm going to go over here and I don't know, that was viewing certificates. I did a second view certificates. Again, viewing your certificate, you can obviously look here and see your certificate view. Let me see where my 27. I don't want to go in on that one. I'm already in on the other one. This is normally my golden machine too. I'm just kind of disappointed. Has all my bundles and policies and things I work with you guys with. Thought I had it nailed with last week setting up a certificate and having it pending while we wait for today. It's just taking its sweet time. Now we should have okay, again, note to self, make sure I reboot even my ESX. Just leave it running on my ESX. So I don't know why it's hurting. Okay, let's go here. I could shut that down, power it off. Some green spikes. Very disappointed. Sorry, y'all. This doesn't look like it is going to come up. I really wanted to give you some more visual. We can try one last ditch effort on my 150. Brand new 2020 appliance. And part of that, I guess part of that would come into the next 2 weeks as well, consolidating and, you know, if you're decommissioning or moving to other platforms. That's a good point. Some of that may come into this next 2 weeks of ZENcast as we close out the year. All right, we're at 150 here. Do we dare? Let's give it a go. I always go to 9443 on the appliance first just to see if we connect. I wonder if I lost a nick or something. Because these are not. Come on, let's type in there. Let's check this out. I see it from that standpoint. Let's give it a minute. Maybe I, oh, okay, I jumped it. All right. Let's go do this. Let's do it on this appliance. I just didn't, you know, I had a colleague when I was at my previous employer, and my colleague would go, Paul, step away from the keyboard. So, because I was always pressing it too quick. I was always wanting it to finish up. Okay, so let's go to ZENworks Control Center. Yay, we got something. We can do some of this here. It'll take a minute. I'm sure it's still coming up. So this particular configuration, we have the ZENworks database is internal. It's Postgres as well. There is something struggling on that ESXi though. There we go. I like that. Okay. Okay, so database is here. It's Postgres. There we go. We go home. We go to, this guy's turning. Give it a second. I'm confident this guy will come up. Otherwise, how's the climate out there with all your students or staff that you're managing through ZENworks? Are there any gotchas or things that are hard to manage? What are some of the roadblocks that we have that we need to put into the product so that we can make it easier? I know the DMZ was one of them, and working from home, and if you have any ideas, throw them our way. Talking about terminal sessions, we're talking about the application streaming, right? The Micro Focus desktop containers. A single install of an exe gives you the application, and then you can actually stream that, and you can actually connect an RDP session. So it doesn't like it. Let's go here. Oh, it's not going to find it that way. I don't have DNS turned on. Yeah, it's not going to find. Oh, let me do HTTPS. It's already there. It sees it. Okay. I was excited about this coming in, but it looks like we'll do some quick demos at the beginning of next ZENcast to show some of the activity live on a system. You guys have seen it, but I know it happens every 2 years maybe. So, oh, whoa. Are we feeling lucky? Okay. Feeling lucky. Certificates. Again, you can move the role. There's only one primary, so you can't really move this role. But if you highlight in here and we do a remint certificate, I'm going to run through this real quick. All right, and then if you want to include additional DNSs. Hi, Valerie. Hey, thank you for coming in. Desktop containers, also more RDP to workstations, but ZENworks doesn't always log in as the user. We're looking in to move user source over to AD from E directory so they can see user assigned bundles. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. So is that why you're moving them over to AD, is because of this, or is this just your transition moving from E directory to AD? You're right, it doesn't always log in as a user, it'll log in as a workstation. So that's a concern. I'm going to go ahead and set this out a couple of days. We're going to hit OK. You get the blue. And then you get the yellow should come in. And then Jose, we need cloud options. Multi-tenant for hosting in the future. That would be a wish list for the product. So Docker is soon coming to ZENworks. And I say soon, and I use that term lightly because we're developing that right now. But being able to have in the cloud your a section for, a Docker for bundles, for policies, for certain aspects or components of the device or of the system in the cloud. And then when upgrades happen, if it's just the upgrades or the defects need to be applied to bundles, you're just taking down that one section of the component of ZENworks instead of the whole thing. So there are some activities of moving that direction into the cloud. So thank you for asking about that, Jose. Valerie, okay, so because of this, so this is actually put a strain on your environment enough to do a platform change, which is something that we really need to look at. So thank you for shouting that out, Valerie. I appreciate that. So back to our certificates, we reminted, started for the selected servers. If you click on this, you could see which server that is, the replication status, and while it was in the blue, that's what it was doing. It was building, and now it's active and communicating. I actually want to go in and create a we can cancel remit and do that. Now it's going to go away from system updates, because in system updates you'd have a remit in here, and it went away because we canceled it. But what I'd like to do is remit the CA. Yes, and we're going to do it for valid for 10 years. We'll do the internal. We're going to do 2 years and 10 years. We don't need to include any DNS names. We're going to go out a couple days, I guess, and we'll go finish. It talks about activation. If the date is less than 15 days, remember, you want it, this gets trickled out across all the devices, and it sits dormant until the activation date happens. So we're going to go here, select the remit start. We could see that we have the new zone CA, right? And there it is there. Replication status, this should be across all of them. If you have more primaries. System updates. If we go over to this system updates, we'll see it here. Oh, it's down here. Okay, certificate for remit. Now, the one thing I wanted to show you is this CA is out there. If it's only for 2 days, right? So on the 19th, when this when this comes into activation, it basically turns off the other certificate. At which time your devices, if they don't have the new certificate, will fail. There is, under the download ZENworks tools, under updates, you have these certificates. So it is our recommendation that anytime you do a certificate remit of a CA, okay, go out to the tools, download these, so that way if something comes aboard, it was in the closet, comes aboard later on, and you can't attach, you can run this to get the latest certificate on it, and then do what you need to upgrade the rest of it. But this is your certificate here that's a standalone tool. Now, as soon as that 19th comes up, this goes away. Okay, so that's why you have, during that window of old to new, you want to grab this update, because this will then go away for security purposes. Does that make sense? This is where you normally get your agents, and then this is where you get your updates. So, all right, we can. That's all right. Okay, so I want to make sure you're aware that this was here. It creates this on the fly. You want to make sure you grab that so that you can update all those remote ones that may not have been connected to get that through the ZENworks refresh process. All right. And you could show that it's just waiting. You can assign now. If you need to assign now, you want to make sure replication is 100% across all your servers. And then you can do an assign now. And then it says, by the way, update will fail if content replication isn't complete. So make sure you check that. Hit OK. And then it'll start trickling it down right away to those devices. Okay. So a little bit of a backfire on some of my zone here. I hope that'll give you can see the expiration date here. It's the, oh, that's future, sorry. So a little bit of backfire. I hope it was helpful. I will put in the commands in the description, and hopefully you can go ahead and get some of those queries for PGAdmin. The reason why I say that is because obviously PGAdmin's new, and moving over to another database sometimes can be hard and challenging, getting the new syntax and so forth. Okay, let's go back over to here. Next on ZENcast, zone management. Two-part series. We're going to talk about zone management. Hopefully we get some input like we have had today as far as we come across certain topics. You say, well, what about managing this or managing that? So, and at any time, feel free to email me at paul.pedron@microfocus.com. And we'll be happy to take those questions or answers and so forth. Okay, and then next year I'll modify this. I'll try and get some patch going and some air gap going for early 2021. Again, if you can, please take the survey. It'll help me out and understanding that we're on target. And I really appreciate everybody joining me today. I appreciate that you hung with me through getting my zone back up and running. I hope you reaped something from the certificates today, and that you can have a better understanding, or at least a little more comfortability of where to look when you're doing those updates every 2 years or 10 years or whenever they happen to come up. Okay. If there's any other questions, please put them in chat. I'd be happy to talk to you. Thank you, Jose. I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody joining, and Valerie, well noted. Thank you for that concern. We'll take that in, and I'll bring it up the chain. All right. I hope to see you in a couple weeks, and we'll do some zone management. Come with some topics and some interchanges. We'll be happy to. I'm excited about all the conversation we had here today. Please stay safe. I know things are happening across the globe, and I just ask for you to stay safe and keep smiling. We'll get through this. All right. Take care, everybody. Appreciate your time.